Tua is undeniably a top 10 quarterback. No questions.
Listen, Lamar is a 2-time MVP. All that's left for him to do is to win the big one.
Miami Dolphins. I just want to say thank you for drafting that sorry bum Tua when you could have had Justin Herbert.
Jordan Love has the potential to be the best quarterback in the game. All right, welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today we're going to do a mock draft. Draft is quickly approaching, about 5 weeks out from now, and so really starting to dive into some of these college prospects, and excited to get into this mock draft. How do y'all want to do the order? Anyone want to go first and pick Caleb Williams?
It seems to be a lock, but quite frankly, I'm not probably as in tap with the college prospects as you, Brian. So with you leading us off and leading the way would probably be the best bet. I know a few guys, I know a few positions in this class, but this is still pretty early in the process for me, so I'm going to have to watch a lot more film and get a lot more notes on these guys.
Okay, so that being said, you going first would not be a bad deal because it's going to be the easiest pick. So, Christian, do you want to go second so you get your Chargers?
Sure. Let's do it.
Sweet. All right, so Chase is on the clock with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I mean, pretty obvious once the Justin Fields trade went through that they're going to be drafting Caleb Williams here. Obviously, they need a quarterback. There's a few high-end quarterback prospects. I enjoyed listening to y'all's last episode without me while I was not on my honeymoon, but I was on just vacation, as Brian tried to play me real quick, but just a vacation for me. I did listen, and I heard you guys' QB analysis. I liked it. I agree with a lot of what you guys have said, but end of the day, Caleb Williams still clear QB 1-1, player 1-1 in this draft, so the Bears will almost certainly take him there.
All right, so Christian on the clock with his beloved Washington Commanders. Who you going with, man?
To me, I mean, I think it's you go with Drake May, but I just think the setup in Washington is not the direction. Quarterback's definitely the option. You have Marcus Mariota there now. So Brian is, going to search for the guy, and it's Jay Daniels. I think that's just mobility. We get the second coming to RG3 and hopefully get it right this time. Is my process behind this. They have some hiccups, I think, on the O-line. They don't need a Drake May. I think they need the mobility. And I think that's definitely the right choice with Daniels. Get him back there moving. They have some wide receivers still there, and they went in free agency and got a couple of guys to kind of help out. But I think this is, they showed new ownership, new everything. So we're going to go ahead and get a new quarterback to lead the franchise.
I couldn't agree more, man. I think Jaden Daniels is clear-cut QB2 in my eyes. So Washington Commanders getting their franchise quarterback. The Patriots are on the clock, and this is one of those positions, man, where they could do anything. They could surprise the world and pick an offensive tackle here. They could freaking go with a receiver that's not Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think they need a playmaker weapon. They don't have that. So I think the easy pick right here is go with the best prospect on the board. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. Lock it in. I think he's the best player remaining. So,
yeah, I agree with that one, Brian. I'd hate to see him go to New England. I'd like to see him in a warmer weather situation and really have a legit passing offense, like you may have with Arizona, still with Kyler Murray there. You don't know what the QB situation is going to be out in New England, so you just kind of have to hope that Harrison gets his QB sometime in the near future. For Arizona, obviously you see the needs here, wide receiver, O-line, both trenches, cornerback. I think there's a number of players you can go with here. Top of the board, you got those other two receivers that really jump out for a playmaker. The loss of Hollywood Brown, they really have no one to build around on that side of the ball. I'm going to grab one of the receivers, and I'm actually going to go with the guy listed under, and that's Odunze from Washington. I like him better than Neighbors. Marvin Harrison wasn't in this draft class, he's been the clear wide receiver one for a while. I think he would be Rome would be a clear-cut wide receiver 1, top 5 pick. He's a great prospect, in my opinion. I really love him as a player. I think he's going to do great things in the next level. So give me him with the 4th pick.
All right. I like that. Rome Odunze. Very good player. A little bit slept on. So Christian.
Yeah, no, the
trading
Chargers. I think if the board falls like this, I think as a Chargers fan, man, I hope we would sprint up to the board. We lose Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I mean, number 1 guys, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson. I mean, I think you run up to the board quickly and grab the guy from LSU, Malik Neighbors. I know he ran today. It's like a 4.35. It's not by the pro people, but that he did at LSU his pro day. I think, man, his speed, Justin Herbert, I don't think, it's going to be the same Chargers we've seen with Justin Herbert being the everything. I think we are going to, we already see that it's going to be a running team. They've done it this offseason to make us a running team, but you at least got to have a guy for Justin Herbert, and Malik Neighbors fit, everything you would want for Justin Herbert to be able to throw to.
I couldn't agree more. I think that'd be a very nice ad. But also surprised maybe not trading down there, accumulating some more draft capital, but I definitely understand the pick. So next here is the New York Giants, and they need a lot. They really need a lot. And I would be shocked if they are committed to Daniel Jones at this point. Lackluster seasons, injuries, things of that nature. But I also don't trust them to draft the right guy. I've been pretty vocal on my take on Drake May that I don't think he's worth a top 10 pick. But I think that's the kind of quarterback that they want. I think he's got some shades of Daniel Jones to his game. I think he's a little bit more talented with his arm. He's got a stronger arm, but generally speaking, I think he's got some of the same issues Daniel Jones has. But that means he's a perfect fit for the New York Giants. So I'm going to pick Drake May here, despite my own analysis of him.
Yeah, so maybe a little late to ask this as we're already 6 picks in, but are we kind of picking based off what we think the team's going to do or what we would do?
I'm picking based on what I think the team is going to do. But that being said, I'm also kind of putting in my own flair to it.
Yeah. That was my thing. That's why I went with Rome at pick 4. That's what I would do. He's my favorite wide receiver prospect. Do I think the Cardinals grab him over Neighbors? I'm not sure. I'd really have to look at what their coaching prefers, really. And we'll have to look here for the Titans. There's some needs everywhere, but just bouncing back to what I know and the prospects I've somewhat looked into, Joe Alt is just a heck of an offensive lineman. I mean, Notre Dame churns these guys out every year. Mm-hmm. He's no different. He's going to be a great plug-and-play tackle in this league. I think he's got great future ahead of him. Tennessee went out and paid Calvin Ridley, makes the wide receiver position less of a need. With the top 3 guys off the board, I think this is the only pick that's really justifiable for the Titans here. So I'm going to take Joe Alt with this 7th pick.
They need O-linemen, that's for sure. Especially if they want to give their young quarterback a chance to succeed, since he likes to hang on to the football. But couldn't agree more on that one. So Atlanta on the clock. I think if this is how the board falls, man, you got to get the best edge available. Thinking Byron Murphy's going to be the pick here.
You wouldn't even look at corner? Just curious. So, to me, we've seen AJ Terrell there, and it's just they have went and tried in free agency multiple times now to get him a sidekick, and it hasn't happened. So you wouldn't think, I guess, the corner would. But I will say the corner class is deep, and what you like would determine where you would go here. What I would say about at least the corners.
I agree with you, and it is a deep corner. It's a good corner class, but the edge is also a premium position. They don't got anything. They don't got any good pass rushers. And so if it was me, I'm kind of going edge. And I think I'm going to go with Dallas Turner here. He's the edge with the most upside. I think he gives them the most impact on day one as an edge. I think Jared Verse is obviously a good option as well. But the guy with the most upside just has an injury concern is this guy right here. Latu. I think he can be a very good player. Kind of reminds me of Jalen Phillips. Went to the same school too. So, but I am going to go Dallas Turner here for Atlanta.
Dallas
All
Turner.
right. Well, it's
All
Christian, right?
Yeah. Man, with Chicago.
Got your
To
franchise
me,
quarterback.
Man, yeah, and then I think at wide receiver, man, I see, PFF still says that's a need, but for me, man, I just think they have enough now for wide receiver. I think they definitely go on the defensive side here. It's just, and I would think, like Brian is saying, you go D-line, I think interior D-line, till we've seen them struggle a lot last year against the run. And I mean, you go with, I think, Byron Murphy the second at Texas. I think that's a great pickup for them. And I think you go with that guy just because, I mean, their defense has been great, secondary wise, but it's just been the interior and against the run. They have Sweat on the outside, so I think they get, a young guy show bright things against, like Alabama when they played better talent in the SEC. So I think you shore up this D line and get it, built up more and get your defense actually humming to help. Definitely, your young quarterback that you just drafted in Caleb Williams.
Yeah, so that's like your interior pass rush specialist, get after the quarterback kind of prospect, and he's very explosive for his stature. So I like that. I think he pairs well with what they have been drafting, and Gervon Dexter out of Florida last year, and Zach Pickens, who actually went to the high school I went to. But I think that's a good pick, Christian.
Christian, with the Jets up next, that's a team you know pretty well, and you kind of go to bat for a lot. Do you want to possibly pick for them? I'd be happy to let you, because I have a guy in mind.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you can tell me who you got in mind. I'm just kind of curious on what you think.
I just hate the way the board's kind of falling this way to me, the way we're drafting so far. But Brock Bowers just seems really obvious with how much Aaron loves his tight ends, and the Jets definitely do not have a playmaker there. He can be a difference maker, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Now, my only thing, and I think Brian definitely, being in the division, will say they have not yet found, Bryce Huff's replacement. But with the pick I just made beforehand as the Jets, I think, that's who you're sitting there hoping would fall to you. But I think since not, this may be where the Jets would maybe want to trade back and see if one of these teams want to come up and get a quarterback. But I just think they would take something. And I think you go and help, Aaron Rodgers. But the offensive line, they have done some fixing, I guess you can say, on it. And I think that's what Brian's going to say is this O-line needs help.
Needs some work.
Yeah, but it's just like their defense doesn't have the amount of bodies they had on that D-line. So would you go D-line here? I wouldn't, just because, like I said, I think you done took, both pieces that I would have took here, Dallas Turner and then Murphy. So, it's really up to you, Chase. But, that's just my thought. And you hear Brian leaning O-line, so.
I think I'm going to go with Brian here, and I'm going to go with the tackle out of Penn State. Name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but Fashanu, it looks like. Yeah,
Fashanu.
Just seems like I know they traded for Morgan Moses from us, but he's getting up in age. I don't know if he's the definite starter week one. You draft a prospect like this, he can come and compete for the job. Even if he don't get it, he can sit behind a respected and well-traveled veteran. I think that pick makes a lot of sense if they're not looking to add a playmaker to this offense.
Yeah, just from my perspective, being a interdivision rival, I hope they go defensive line again this year. But this guy right here, Fashanu, is a stud pass protector. And if you're trying to make this window with Aaron work, you got to keep him upright. They're pushing their chips in, protect Aaron Rodgers at all costs. This has got to be the pick in my mind. So, Fashanu, that's exactly the tackle I was looking at too. The Minnesota Vikings. So I think they're going to go quarterback. And the word on the street, if you will, is I'm not a fan of it, but I don't have to be. This JJ McCarthy. They seem to be enamored with him. They ended up trading up to get another first-round pick. I think they're going to try to package it and move up to get their guy. But in this scenario, they stay put and he falls right into their lap. I don't think they could be happier.
Man. Well, with that pick, as the Denver Broncos probably wish that was their guy. I'm kind of lost to what to do here. I know they did get, Josh Reynolds today for wide receiver. would you spend your 12th pick on a center as Denver Broncos? I think you have a lot more you need to worry about than just that position. And I just don't see you going, definitely Brock Bowers sitting here. You don't even have your quarterback, I think, of the future. So, I'm open to ideas from maybe one of you two guys. What do you think they would say in the war room if they think this is what the board's kind of sitting for them? They've lost a lot this offseason.
Yeah. You would think they want their quarterback of the future, but is that guy there left after this, the way the sport's fallen so far? I don't know. I don't think Sean Payton wants to spend a lot of time losing, so he's going to try to find something to make this work quickly. I just don't know if that guy's there, honestly, the way the board has fallen so far.
I wouldn't be surprised at corner here for Denver. There's quite a few good options remaining. They get their pick of the litter, if you will. This Cooper DeJean guy, he's a good player. He can move around. He can play safety. He can play in the slot. He's a good run defender. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route. Especially since they lost Justin Simmons, they need someone to kind of play on the roof or move that around in the box. I think he's that kind of player. They had a very kind of similar player in Kareem Jackson for a long time, and he's starting to get long in the tooth. So I think this is a good option here. But they need a lot. I don't think that's a surprise. And the way the board fell, I'm sure they would be upset because I would assume they would want a quarterback, and the next quarterback to go will probably be Bo Nix, and you have a chance at grabbing him in the second round. So, I think you can go a number of directions here.
Yeah, if there was an edge rush too, man, they definitely need that. We seen last year they had some pieces, older vets, but a lot of those guys would, the Russell Wilson contract hitting them like it is. They don't have those guys definitely coming back. So I'm going to lean with you, Brian. I think Cooper DeJean, I think that'd be the direction. You go get a corner. If it don't work out there, you can move him in the safety role because you have a lot of holes on defense, and you're telling me the kid can play multiple positions. You can find somewhere for him to stand out and be great for your team.
Yep, I agree. Chase on the clock with the Raiders.
We're sticking in that AFC West. Obviously, you see the team needs here a lot. You still don't know who you're going to be rolling out. Is it O'Connell at QB next year? They're not in position to take a guy that I think is a difference maker to win them games. I think they want to build an identity of being a smash mouth, good defensive team, and a team that can find a way to run the football. So I'm going to look to beef up their trenches on the O-line here. There's a few good tackles left. You already see the tackle out of Oregon State and the tackle out of Washington. Those two Pac-12 guys are jumping out to me. I haven't seen a lot of tape on the guy out of Oregon State, and I have seen a good bit for Troy Faltanu out of Washington. I've seen a good bit of tape on him. He can move pretty well. I think he fits the type of trench player that Pierce wants to bring in. I think that's the direction the Raiders will go. So I'm going to take him at 13.
Sweet. All right, and you did say Fatanu, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Yeah, he's a good player. He can move around too. He's inside, outside, flexible player. Play guard, play tackle. Good movement skills. So I'm on the clock with the New Orleans Saints. I'm just looking at this, man, and how do they not pick Brock Bowers? Like, that seems like everything they want Taysom Hill to be.
That's why, everything
they wanted
that's
him to
why,
be.
man.
They tell you they already got Brock Bowers and Taysom Hill right there.
Nah, they got
might
Taysom
tell you
Hill
that.
contract.
I'd say they're lying.
And Jimmy G or Jimmy Graham.
They really need tackle though, because Ryan Ramczyk might be able to play, not be able to play this year. I think you have to go tackle, honestly. And this is another tackle that can kind of play inside, outside, flexible across offensive line. I know the Saints kind of like having those kind of players, versatility. So I think this is the pick right here for the Saints. Shore up that tackle position, and that's not many tackles better to learn from than Ryan Ramczyk. So this is the pick for the Saints. Colts.
All right, then. Well, I think, like Brian just said, there's a guy that should be not here probably. Maybe we'll make it this far. And if he is, you have Anthony Richardson coming back. We see the wide receivers in, the Colts land, and it's just Michael Pittman and who has yet stepped up. Josh Downs had a couple highs and lows last year. So I think you go get Brock Bowers, bring him, help your quarterback develop, and get this guy another weapon. Jonathan Taylor, Brock Bowers, Michael Pittman. I think that's a great offense for a young rookie quarterback to maybe, return, be healthy, and have those weapons. I think be a lot better and maybe make him not run as much as we seen last year.
Yeah, I think that's a nice fit. Nice fit right there. All right, Chase, Seattle.
Awesome. Drafting for my guy, Mike McDonald, the first-year head coach out in Seattle now. I think I'm going to go D-line here, so I'd like to look at those top D-line prospects. You can either go edge or I'd probably prefer edge for Seattle, but I don't know if I'm going to pick one, honestly. I like Verse out of Florida State. They re-signed Leonard Williams, so I think interior D-line's probably going to be him and some others. So I'm going to look for edge. I mean, I don't know about Newton. I hadn't seen a lot of his tape. Do you think he can play on the edge in the NFL, or is he more of an inside guy? Looks like
He is a 3 tech that could also play in a 4-3 as inside.
I think for versatility and for pure athleticism, I'm going to go with the edge out of Florida State here and get Mike McDonald, a nice pass rusher.
Nice. Very athletic. I think he fits what they want to do well. All right, so I'm on the clock with Jacksonville. I don't think this is too much of a hard pick for me. I think you go with the best corner available, and in my opinion, that's Terrion Arnold. I think they go ahead and find their running mate across from his name's escaping me. CJ, no, not Henderson. He's been gone. Dang, what's their first round corner's name? Yes. And shore up that secondary, man. They've been looking for that. They lost Darius Williams in free agency. I think that's a nice investment in the corner room.
All right, then. With Cincinnati, man, my thing is, I'm trying to look what's left on the offensive line side. Definitely, Joe Burrow's been banged up multiple times now, but it's just, do you think I'm reaching if I take a tackle here, Brian, or do you think,
No.
I think
this is a really good tackle class. A lot of these guys go earlier and up. Yeah.
So, to me, man, Joe Burrow's health would be my number one concern in Cincinnati. I have T. Higgins locked up for at least this year. I have Jamar Chase. The defense, they did lose, Geno Atkins and a couple other guys, but it's just, I think Joe Burrow's your number one concern, I think, moving forward for this franchise. And, for me, man, I ain't looked too much into these guys, but, I guess I'm going to go, man. I kind of want to go, the only two that's really got me going back and forth is Mims and then J.C. Latham. I don't know, maybe, Brian, you can light me up on which one.
Yes.
Is better than
Mims
the other,
is more
but
of a project. Yeah.
Mims is a athletic freak that needs some technical refinement. He's also got a lack of experience and some durability concerns, but he's like a high-end, high-ceiling tackle.
Well, I think, man, with that being said, you have the high end, but I'm going to go with JC just because I got a guy that I can 100% throw out there on day one and know, hey, protect my quarterback at all costs. And I'm not going to have to teach him much. I might have to teach him some things, but it's not going to be like Mims on day one.
Yeah, J.C. Latham is like a road grader. He's going to run people straight over. I do believe he is a right tackle. Yeah, he plays on the right side. So,
good fit. I like the pick.
Yep.
Next up, the Rams. To me, this is pretty easy. I think post Aaron Donald, they're looking for that next guy. Obviously, that's a one-in-generation type player. So Newton is sticking out like a sore thumb for me. You go D-line here, beef up that interior pass rush. Hopefully, you find something similar. If he's a fourth of the player and Aaron Donald was, the Rams will be quite happy. So I'm going to grab Newton out of Illinois here for the Rams at pick 19.
Love that. Love that for sure. So next I have the Steelers.
Why don't you let Christian go? You pick for your Dolphins.
Facts. You want to do that, Brian?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Oh man, with the Steelers, I mean, God, I have a little bias, you can say. I did kind of look at Brian Thomas a little bit, the other wide receiver at LSU. Give whoever the quarterback's going to be another weapon. But I think the corner's been a big problem for them. That's kind of what I see on the board. They still got a lot of great pieces. And to me, man, to have the one young quarter they drafted last year, name slipping my mind. Dad played in the league and all. Golly.
Joey Porter Jr.
Yes.
Yeah. He will get, I think, the role this year to actually start. I think we've seen Pat Pete, his time is done. So this is time for, Joey Porter to step up. But with that, I think he's going to get a running mate and a guy that, hey, if he can't handle being the number one. And with that, man, I want Nate Wiggins. I mean, the dude at Pro Day, man, looked great. I know he did, have the injury maybe concern, but I think you get a steal. I mean, this guy, to me, he's fallen a lot. I think you get Nate Wiggins, shown that he could be the number one guy, did it at Clemson. You know what you're getting with this player. There's no questions with this guy. You're getting a great corner on day one.
Yeah, I agree. He's a very long, fluid corner. I think he is a nice complement to what they have in Joey Porter Jr. A little bit more movement skills, maybe not quite as physical. So Miami on the clock here. It says tight end's a need. I don't think tight end is a need. We brought in Johnny Smith. We still have Durham Smythe, and we got some other young guys in the room. I feel like that is competent in my eyes. I think this has to be interior O-line or interior D-line. And I already know the pick for me. It's Graham Barton. He's a fluid, athletic tackle who can also play guard, and I think he's a nice fit in our wide zone rushing scheme. So I think this one is a no-brainer. The only other individuals that I would consider here, Jackson Powers Johnson would be a nice replacement for Connor Williams, but we invested heavily into Aaron Brewer. Bring him in. He's a center. So I think he'll play there. And then Leitu Latu is one of my draft crushes this year. I think that he would be a nice fit for us, but I think it's a little redundant to what we already have in Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Of course, they are coming off injury, but we just signed Shaq Barrett to a pretty healthy contract too. So I'm going to go with Graham Barton here and shore up some of this O-line and hopefully replace Robert Hunt.
Logical pick there for your Dolphins. I think that makes the most sense. Where you're speaking of replacements and you get to the Eagles, you got a legendary center and Kelsey retiring, and you still have Powers Johnson on the board. That makes a lot of sense. But the way this board is falling, I'm actually going to go with Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo. I think for my money, he is the best corner in this draft. I know we've already selected two ahead of him, but it's a strong corner draft, and I think he's right up there with any of them. Obviously, you're not going against the biggest competition out there in Toledo, but I think his tape holds true that he is a matchup nightmare for a lot of different receivers. I think he can excel in Philadelphia's scheme and have a good year for them.
Yeah, I agree. He can close and tackle. He's kind of like what's his name from last year that went to Seattle,
Witherspoon,
yeah,
yes.
he's similar to him. I think he's a good player. And they're getting kind of up there with their corners and their age, and James Bradbury and Slay. So, all right. Am I on the clock now, or is Christian on the clock? I think it should go back to me, right?
Yes, technically it's your pick.
That's fine.
Okay, so the Vikings are on the clock earlier. They secured their franchise quarterback, man. I think that they desperately need some DBs here. Also, offensive line wouldn't be out of the question. Jackson Powers Johnson is still on the board. That's not really typically the kind of center they would go after. They like these very agile centers that can move. Jackson Powers Johnson can move, but he's 330 pounds, and he'll knock you on your butt. Sorry, I'm thinking, man. What should I do here? What should I do? the Vikings. Man. All right. I'll go Jackson Powers Johnson. It just makes sense. I think they can kind of deviate from what they were doing and maybe try to go a little bit more north and south with him there.
All right. Next is the Dallas Cowboys that had a amazing free agency. I mean, they did everything they wanted to do and more. So I think with all those moves they made, man, the Cowboys have, I think, a good bit of needs, but they did lose a key piece, I think, that went, into the division of Brian. And I think, with that, I think you go get Mims. That tackle needs to be addressed early, I think. They didn't do it in free agency. You lose a guy like Smith, a guy that's been there, been great for you for years now. I think you have to find his replacement as soon as possible, and whoever is your running back, and you have to protect your quarterback, Dak Prescott. So I think you go Mims here. He's a project, but we've seen Dallas get these guys and really turn them and get them going very quickly.
Yep. Plays on the right side, which isn't the side Tyron Smith played on, but he can switch and he can still play on the right side. Terrence Steele was not good last year, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Green Bay on the clock here. Man, I think you can go a number of directions here. I think they do need offensive tackle to replace man, what's his freaking name? Left tackle Bulaga? No.
Bakari.
Bakari, that's it. Tyler Guyton wouldn't be a bad pick here. I think he would kind of fit.
I was kind of hoping he fell to Baltimore, but
Yeah, tackles don't last, man.
Since Mims is off the board now, but I think that pick makes sense there. I think the linebacker makes sense as well. They need a leader on defense. Kind of seems like the offense really got clicking towards the end of the year. So, number of ways, they're an up and coming team. Brian, you were really on them all last season, so I'll let you make that decision.
Wait, am I not? You're on the clock, aren't you?
Yeah, but you gave the Packers so much love. Why don't you pick for them? I'll take Tampa. It's fine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think Tyler Guyton is the move here. I think they need to replace Bakhtiari, and I think this is a project pick, but because they have so much youth on their team, I think they can afford to take a guy with as much upside and tools as Tyler Guyton has. I don't really love him as a prospect, but I think he's a good fit.
All right, Bucks here. Wow, I can't believe they have running back listed as a need for them. Obviously, this year's draft, no running backs worth the first round pick. Not really in many cases, but definitely this year. They have tight end, interior O-line, edge listed, corner. Number of directions you go with the Bucks, who were really a short
a lot
time frame away from being the NFC Championship. So they bring Baker back, they bring back Mike Evans. They're rolling it back and hoping to win the South again. I'm going to go with the edge out of UCLA. Top guy left on the board. You lose Shaq Barrett to Brian's Dolphins. Seems like a need to get younger on the edge. He's a great pass rusher. He's just got to stay on the field a little bit more from what I see. So I'm going to take him out of UCLA for the Bucks at pick 26.
I like it. Good replacement for Shaq Barrett. So is it Christian?
Oh yeah, don't even know what direction to go. To be honest with you, man. Who am I gonna pick,
never mind.
Man?
Now you're gonna pick a receiver.
Never mind. That's what I thought.
Never mind. They picked one earlier.
I mean, I thought about it, but they already took one. Yeah, that's why. I mean,
yeah.
You go defense because, man, that defense last year, I think you have to add something to it. That's my opinion. It's just a bend, but don't break defense. And I mean, it didn't. They broke a lot. But I mean, Brian, so is there something you see that maybe I'm not seeing if I'm Arizona?
I don't know, man. I don't think the board really fell good for them here. To be honest with you,
it did not. That's why I mean, I think you take a
Kool-Aid makes a little sense, maybe.
Yeah, I think you could go corner or D line. TJ Tampa is not a bad pick either. I don't like picking linebackers early.
I don't either, unless it's like a
think you can go.
Yeah, I just think,
Rob
man,
Robinson
I'm
would
gonna
be
go
a
with
good pick here.
Chase. Nah, I'm gonna go with Chase, man. Get corner, I think. Go ahead and try to get something to stop the pass. I mean, it killed him last year. So, I'm gonna go with Kool-Aid. Get him. We seen what he is. Played at one of the teams that always pump out great NFL talent. So, I think you go with him. Physical guy. I think you go ahead, draft him. Get something that you can go, hey, we have locked something up on our defense, and we ain't gonna have to worry for a while.
Yeah. I agree with you, Christian. I think that's a need, especially for Arizona. I think they need a lot. I think bringing a guy like Kool-Aid who can play some sticky man coverage would be a good pick. With Buffalo on the clock here, actually, this is Chase's pick. Yeah. Right?
How about you take Buffalo, Christian take the Lions, I'll take the Ravens, and then y'all do the Super Bowl matchup however you want.
Okay. Cool. Buffalo obviously needs a quarterback. Josh Allen's at the end of his runway. But really, I think they got to go receiver, man. I think Diggs is might be out the door, maybe. There's been some speculation there. I think Brian Thomas Jr. or Adonai Mitchell would be a great fit. Personally, my preference is Adonai Mitchell. I think he's an outside weapon who could really help them stretch the defense. I think he's a much better version of Gabe Davis, and he could be an X factor for their offense. I'm going to go with Adonai Mitchell.
Dang. Surprise. I think, with the Lions, man, I think you could go maybe, there's so many, I think, little holes they have. It's not big holes, man, but it's just, I'm trying to think, what Dan Campbell would do. And, man, drafting for this team, I would say out of a lot of teams, is probably the hardest to do because, definitely last year, they don't do what I think you would think they would do. Is in a weird way. They draft who they think the best player is on the board, but just with how our board's sitting, I think, yeah, you'd go Peyton Willis, I think, out of North Carolina State, NC State. I think you get him. I think, man. And that's just, you have Jack Campbell.
But they did draft Campbell. I was about to say they drafted Campbell last year. I don't know how much.
He has some highs and lows. I watched him a good bit. I was big on him, but I think with how Dan Campbell wants to be, I think he locks up both his linebackers for the future. Unless, Brian's looking at center and thinking that's the move, but I just don't know enough about him to say, is this a round 1 pick worthy out of West Virginia or not?
I think it really depends on what your opinion is on some of these corners, because I think there's some good value here with corner.
Yeah, I think. They did have the Cam Sutton issue. I kind of did forget about that till just now. So with that being said, possibly you could go corner, and I think out of what's left at corner, I don't know much about either of these guys. I'm not gonna lie, but I know Michigan's defense did play well, but that's one guy out of the whole team, not just the unit.
Okay, so this guy is a slot cornerback, and that would kind of fly in the face of what they have in Brian Branch, who can move around a little bit. But Cam Sutton was a kind of an inside-outside corner. But they did, just kind of looking at what they've done in the past, draft Jeff Kuda, who's an outside guy, high tools, things like that. I think a similar prospect is TJ Tampa. So I don't think that's a bad pick here. But also, man, you might not like this, but I don't think Bo Nix is a bad pick here.
Man, there's a guy on that roster, Brian. I ain't gonna say his name, but
with how close.
I just don't think, man. I think with what we seen last year, man, this is Jared Goff's team. You can't bring another quarterback in. You cannot do it. That's how I look at it. That you will throw a lot of questions into the locker room if that does happen. I think this is Jared Goff's last dance, you can maybe argue. like, hey, this is your last chance. If we don't make it deep into the playoffs, then we don't have a choice, kind of thing. So I mean,
especially
I'm gonna
with
go
your first pick, like if
Yeah.
you've got Bo Nix available in round 2 or 3 and you've already picked a guy to help your roster, it makes more sense. But Detroit being that close to the Super Bowl, they kind of need to pick someone to help them right now.
Yeah. That's why I'm gonna go with TJ Tampa. I think just draft him. I think you get Bo Nix, man. I hate to say this, but I think he will wow a lot of more players in Detroit than Jared Goff would. With some of the throws that Bo Nix can make that Jared Goff can, you maybe say, not make consistently.
Quarterback is a mental position. I will say that.
Yeah, but Jared Goff is Dan Campbell's
He's
guy,
there.
dog.
He's just limited.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to my Ravens. Obviously, you see the needs here. Always wide receiver with this football team. I know they've gotten better, but that's always going to be a need. O-line, you're looking to get much younger and more athletic. The O-line is being completely revamped this offseason, and that's the position I wanted to go, but Guyton and Mims were kind of my two that I was willing to take at 30. If they're both gone here, you can pull up Michael Penix all you want, Ryan, man. They're too good a team to be dropped in. They're not giving him Lamar the Aaron Rodgers treatment. I'll tell you that right now. For me, I'm looking at the receivers. Thomas Jr., I don't think there's any shot he'll actually be here with this pick. Honestly, I was thinking I'd had my choice between Mitchell and Ladd McConkey, who I really, really like reuniting with from Georgia. And if I'm thinking outside the box, I could maybe talk myself into Chop Robinson, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with a safe pick. I'm going to go with another wide receiver, and I'm going to go with Ladd. I know Brian's probably the higher ceiling player, but reuniting with Monken, and he is just the perfect scheme fit for him in Baltimore. I don't know if he's a first-round type receiver. He's very end of first-round type receiver if you're taking him, but I would love this reuniting with him and Monken. I think he can thrive in Baltimore. Bigger body receiver that we're going to need with the loss of Odell. Take some pressure off of Bateman to not really have to worry about being that guy, because if you don't go receiver early in this draft, it's really a lot of pressure on Bateman to step up and be somewhat comparable to what Zay Flowers was last year. So I'm going to take Ladd McConkey with pick 30 for the Ravens.
All right. So, Christian, you want to pick for Kansas City or San Francisco?
I mean, I did, but the guy that I think they would take is kind of already off the board. So at this point,
It was Ladd.
No, it was Mitchell, man. I seen where him and Patrick Mahomes been, under the radar talking to each other, and he's very Tyreek Hill-esque, is what a lot of KC fans are saying.
It's a lot longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but just the
he's a
speed
diva,
part,
though.
getting that
Yeah,
back.
He's fast.
So I mean, it's up to
Well,
you. Whoever you want, Brian, I'm okay with taking the other one.
I wanted Kansas City, to be honest.
All right, well, you can have them.
But
Man, at this point, man,
so San Francisco.
Man, I mean, this is a team, man. There's nothing really. I mean, O-line, they don't need it. I don't think with what's left.
Just thinking out the box here, it seems like Ayuk is on the way out the door. If you got Brian Thomas Jr. still sitting on the board at pick 31, seems like a fit for me.
Ayuk's probably going to leave soon. Yeah, I think
that's just my thinking.
And then and then with the kind of contracts they have already in the 49ers, it's just they're going to have to probably, like y'all are saying, they're not going to be able to pay a lot of these position guys like Debo. And, I mean, he's got his bag now, but I know it's coming up in at least a couple years. So, I guess, you go with the guy from LSU, get a wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., lock him up. He's been climbing the board slowly. So, I think if you do lose a Brandon Ayuk to, trade him away and you're not probably getting a player for him, probably picks, I think you go ahead and lock up your next wide receiver that you can make a great. What they've been doing, it seemed like with any wide receiver they've been taking.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit. Good fit. So wrap it up with Kansas City. I don't know that they would go receiver here, just
The
because.
only guy left would be Leggett, who I really like, but I don't know if he's worked himself up to a first round grade given that 1 year production, but he's got all the tools of a first round player. I don't know if KC would talk themselves into that here though.
Yeah, the guy that kind of stuck out to me was Chop Robinson. Also Jordan Morgan here. I think he could be a player that can play at guard and then move out to tackle.
Hey, you don't think
Yeah, I'm
about
gonna go Jordan Morgan.
cornerback at all? Would
Yeah, with
Snead
Snead
not
gone,
being there?
Snead maybe
Yeah.
gone. I just don't
No, ain't no
love
maybe.
the
He
corners.
is gone.
I was going between Morgan and Chop Robinson. That was the two that
Yeah.
caught my eye. Chop Robinson's he's good, man. I don't know why he's so far down here on PFF's board. I think he's really more in the mid 20s, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go Jordan Morgan here. I think they need tackle. So, all right, finished up. So there it is, guys. You guys have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Kind of what I expected. I still haven't deep dove this draft class, but from the outside looking in, it seems to be receiver heavy. I think we ended up taking 6 receivers in that first round. A lot of depth there. Only 4 quarterbacks first round. There's not honestly a lot of rebuilding quarterback need teams, and maybe even when they come up, you're not sure they can talk themselves into one of the prospects after those top 3 or 4 guys. So I think that kind of broke how I figured it would. A lot of great talent in the trenches as well, outside of receivers. So interesting. I'll be ready to do another one of these as we get closer. I think it'll look a lot different. Maybe we can work some trades in there because that's obviously a realistic thing that will likely take place on draft day.
Yeah, so I guess I'll do a quick recap of what happened. Number 1, Caleb Williams going to Chicago. 2, Jaden Daniels to Washington. Marvin Harrison to New England at 4. Roma Dunze to Arizona. 5, Malik Neighbors to the Chargers. Drake May at 6 to the New York Giants. Joe Alt to Tennessee. Dallas Turner to the Falcons at 8. Byron Murphy the second to Chicago at 9. At 10, the Jets select Fashanu, Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy at 11, Cooper DeJean at 12 for the Broncos, Troy Fatanu to the Raiders, Talisi Fuaga to the Saints, Brock Bowers to the Colts, Jared Verse to the Seattle Seahawks at 16, Terrion Arnold 17, Jacksonville, J.C. Latham to the Bengals, Jazon Newton, I still don't know how to say his name, 19 to the Rams, Nate Wiggins number 20 to Pittsburgh, Graham Barton from Duke to Miami, Quinyon Mitchell number 22 to Philadelphia, Jackson Powers Johnson to the Minnesota Vikings at 23, Marius Mims, Dallas Cowboys 24, Tyler Guyton 25, Green Bay, Leitu Latu 26 to Tampa Bay, Kool-Aid McKinstry to Arizona at 27, Adonai Mitchell to Buffalo at 28, TJ Tampa corner to the Detroit Lions at 29, Ladd McConkey to Baltimore at pick 30, Brian Thomas Jr. to San Francisco 49ers at pick 31, and to finish it, Jordan Morgan to the Kansas City Chiefs. Very heavy offensive line and corner draft, as well as a lot more quarterbacks going early than I originally thought would be going. But I think it's going to be exciting to see how this evolves over the next couple of weeks. I think our mock draft before the draft is going to look a lot different.
Absolutely. All right. Is that it,
Christian?
boys? I guess we'll pitch all of y'all. Yeah, Christian, anything before we get out?
No, I agree that, I would say if we were doing trades, I think somebody would have called the Chargers on one of the quarterbacks, I think, or even Arizona. If Drake May don't get selected 3, I think you'll see somebody come up, but it's just, the first one, we don't want a lot of moving pieces. We just want to keep it simple on this one, but I think the next one, there will be a lot of phone calls and chaos maybe brought to the table than what we've seen on this one.
Agree.
I like it. Well, thank you all for tuning in. As always, just do us a favor, subscribe, download the podcast episodes on Spotify. Please do us a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe to the YouTube page and all the work that's been put in over there on Hot Route Takes. Until then, we will see you next Wednesday, my guys. Peace out.
Peace. Tua still sucks.
Just for one night, my feelings creeped up on the inside, and I swear they could dig like a shark.